The Collective of Guides, A Message for Your Soul, July 28, 2016. By Salena Migeot. Dearest beloved ones, everything we have been preparing for is coming to fruition. It will take several more months for you to see that we are succeeding in spreading the powerful light of divine consciousness into every aspect of your beingness, and every place where people gather, whether in love, fellowship, community, and good works, or to spread fear, hatred, disinformation, or any other miscreation. There will be no individual, no business, no financial institution, no government building or agency, no matter how small or large, that will not be affected by this influx of divine consciousness. This is truly a gift for all of humanity, and every human will be affected. We lovingly request that you let this envelop you in peace, hope, possibility, and joy, in all ways. What we mean by this is there is no one who will not feel upgraded in some way. You will find that you have more energy, greater abilities, better memory, more physical dexterity and agility, and so many more enhanced ways of living and being. We say this will transpire over the next several months when, in actuality, it has been happening for a great length of time, and this is the completion. The next phase of your existence can be very different if you choose to conduct yourself differently. We invite you to know that you have the power to change not only your individual lives, but all of creation as you know it at this time. That requires a very conscious attitude as you move forward. That means staying out of the fray of the negative political discourse. If you can discuss politics in a way that conveys your viewpoint, but does nothing to discount another's, then by all means fully and frequently engage. If, however, you have difficulty understanding another party or candidate, and that inability to understand is expressed in vitriol, polarization, lack of tolerance, assigning political slants to people you have known and loved for any length of time, and suddenly discounting them because of their political views, you are not exhibiting the ability to hold on to your political ideals or principles while fully embracing the diversity of human discourse. We predict that in the coming weeks that will change. You will likely see things from another's viewpoint. That does not mean you agree with them. It means you can understand how they can support the candidate or party they do, without agreeing with it or feeling compelled to strongly disagree. As you all come into this level of acceptance, we invite you to consider how your thinking may not be in the highest good of all. If the candidate or policies you support do not support what is in the highest good of all of humanity, then they are likely polarizing and supportive of separation to some extent. The trouble with modern American politics is that it has been groomed to mean certain things for one party, and other things for another party. There has not been a fair playing field for third or fourth or fifth parties to engage and take their rightful place. Therefore, these more progressive parties remain on the fringe, ostracized for their differences and vastly portrayed as lone wolves, extremists, idealists, impractical, and not relevant. To the extent that you tolerate this, you are contributing to it. Dearest ones, this is where you who live on continental American soil have been duped, betrayed, and misled. From an outsider perspective, there is the grossest form of nepotism that has been allowed to exist in American politics for over a century. Anyone who does not get along with the family is not invited to the table. Even though they have every right to be there, they are strong-armed out of the dining room, even though just showing up takes a massive amount of courage and tenacity, and more hard work than the ones who are invited have had to accomplish. So the ones who have the family blessing, on both sides of the family, are allowed to continue their decades-old arguments with no intention of reaching a resolution. They agree to disagree on certain policies, even though in many ways both sides have very similar viewpoints. Their very existence depends on them agreeing to disagree. They have been gathering at that table for so long that they have gotten very good at getting along with each other behind the scenes, but pretending to be opponents to keep the illusion that is American politics viable. Beloved ones, it is time to rip down the veil of this illusion. Do you want to keep supporting this charade, or do you want to make lasting, meaningful change for all? We invite you to consider what would happen if you chose not to support either mainstream party, and decided to give your vote to the person you believe has worked hardest and has the most integrity. What if you stripped away all the political blah blah blah, and based your vote on the character of the person who is working hardest for you and your rights. We could expose many secrets of both mainstream parties, but that is not what we do. Suffice it to say that all will be revealed. There will be massive exposure, disclosure, and more information shared than at any time throughout American history combined. Neutral scholars will sort through the information and cut out what is most extraneous and redundant. This will make it much more accessible and digestible to the average person. Through this, you will see how you have been duped for many decades into believing certain things to keep a status quo of political enmeshment. You have the saying that the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. When it comes to your two mainstream political parties, they know exactly what the other is doing because they were all present when the assignments were given. One is tasked with holding up this illusion and the other with holding that illusion. We can tell you with certainty that these illusions will not survive the current political cycle. By November, there will be a very different playing field, and you will all rejoice about it. No matter who you currently support, you will be overjoyed with how things play out. Beloved ones, we have long resisted political discourse, because it is generally not in alignment with what we endeavor to impart to you, especially in this current cycle. This current cycle is unprecedented in terms of the amount of money controlling things. We are talking about complete and total control of every line you read or hear from every news source that is corporate-owned. We are talking about the lies that are being spread and supported by people who believe it is true, because they read it in, or heard it on the news. We can say with great authority and with love, forgiveness, and very compassionate understanding of the human condition that you are better than that. You are evolving into ones who will not tolerate what is being tolerated. You will regain your dignity as a people and you will once again be proud of the America you know and love. We invite you to think of the world you want to live in. Think about how that world would be, what you want for your family, your children, and grandchildren. Think about the kinds of communities you want to live in, what you want to do for work, how you want your efforts supported, whether they be directed to industry, manufacturing, innovation, arts, culture, education, technology, or any other pursuit. Who is most likely to see to it that the federal funds allocated to these areas are not cut? Who is least likely to be swayed by lobbyists? Who do you trust as a person? Who would you be confident of holding the ship together when massive amounts of crisis and calamity strike, whether in drought, flooding, forest fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, mudslides, volcanic eruptions, etc.? Who would be there to see things through without selling out, and who does not have ties to any corporations or agencies that would profit from getting federal contracts to help get the area or the country back on track? These are all more important factors in who you elect than war or terrorism combined. The likelihood of a World War III is non-existent. Every government knows that that would mean the end of the world for all. There is a tacit agreement not to engage in nuclear arms, or any other kind of warfare that would lead to eventual annihilation of the species. Terrorism is manufactured to keep you in fear and keep you dependent on your government to protect you. Think about all of the school and community shootings as well as the global terrorist attacks. Why is it common policy now to shoot the shooters rather than try them? Because a trial would reveal who hired them, trained them, how much they were paid, what promises were made to take care of their families, and many other unsavory details that went into their recruitment and training. So, now that we have stated the obvious that so many of you choose not to look at, think about if you want these types of events to continue or do you want the perpetrators voted out? The very basic truth is that both mainstream American political parties have too much power. They are more connected than divided. Much more so than you know. We invite you to take this into consideration, and look into alternate parties and their candidates and see who is the kind of leader you truly want, instead of one who the media spin says is the only one who can keep the opposite party candidate from being elected. That is manipulation of the worst kind. We invite you all to rise up collectively and vote with your hearts, independent of the mental manipulation you have all been subjected to. If you look into the other parties, we think you will be pleasantly surprised who you see there, and who fits the kind of character we've been portraying. And the beauty of it is, There is not only one. For those of you who feel that another cannot defeat the Democrat or the Republican, think again. It is your world, is it not? Begin thinking that way more and create the world you want. You have seen a great deal offered this election cycle, in terms of mobilization of millions to a cause, and it is not too late to embrace a cause or a new candidate. And so it is. The Collective of Guides. Channeled by Salena Migeot.